Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we're going to take a look at the sun's upcoming opposition to Neptune, which is perfecting over this weekend into Monday. So we're going to take a look at this from the standpoint of the two planets and their archetypal combinations today. Probably do a little deeper dive into the combination on Monday. So we'll pair it up that way. This will give you something to look forward to over the weekend because this transit is you're really going to be feeling it today through Monday. So hopefully this will give everyone some preparation for the transit. And my camera today, my normal camera, I accidentally left it on, so the battery's dead. So I'm using the old web camera. I'm going to go ahead and put up the real-time clock on the screen. And actually, before I do that, I forgot. I am in the midst of promoting my upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, right now. So I want to just highlight that on my website for you so you can check it out in case you're interested in studying astrology with me this fall. So if you go to my website, nightlightastrology.com, and you click on the courses tab and then go to the first year course, you can learn all about it. It'll tell you what the course consists of, 30 lessons plus 12 guest teachers that come in. We have breakout study sessions in between our units. We have a staff of tutors, forum discussions, optional reading, homework, exercises, quizzes, all optional for people. Really, you can do as much or as little as you want to in this course because it's also something that you can take on your own. You can follow along and attend live, or if you're out of time zone or you work at the time of class or something like that, you can watch the recordings. So it's pretty flexible in that regard. You can take a certification test at the end if you want. Toward the end of the class, we host about 10 live readings. And those live reading days give us a chance to break down. You'll see me read for people using all the techniques that we study. Then we'll break down the readings. This is probably the best way to learn astrology. I mean, learning theory and technique is great, but if you can actually see a practitioner whose style you're studying, whose approach you're studying, actually do readings, that's a really, really great way to learn. Anyway, so you can check it out on my website. If you have any questions, feel free to email us info@nightlightastrology.com. You can save $500 off when you use the early bird payment. There's a payment plan if you need it. And there's also tuition assistance plans for people who might be on a really tight budget or need some extra help. So yeah, so hope to see some of you there soon. I'll be advertising this. Program starts November 13th. So I'll be promoting it between now and then. And some days I'll spend more time talking about it than others. So here is the real-time clock. Let's take a look at the sun moving into an opposition with Neptune. So here you can see the sun at about 18 degrees of Virgo right now. And the sun is moving into the opposition with Neptune, and this will perfect by Monday. You can see here's Monday here. Well, Monday into Tuesday, you could even say between Monday and Tuesday, September 13th and 14th. Now, at this point, we're also over the weekend, we'll also be into Monday, really, we'll be moving through the first quarter moon. So pretty critical moment between now and say Monday or Tuesday of next week in terms of the overall lunar cycle for the month as well. There's what I would call a kind of an internal crisis of vision that I want to talk about with this combination. We're going to be talking more about that on Monday. Today, I just want to give you a preview of the archetypal combination and all the different ways that the two planets can go together. So if you're thinking about the sun, one of the simplest ways to think about the sun, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, is that the sun is a symbol that relates to that sense of ideal calling or purpose, a sense of action. In ancient astrology, it was related to the daimon, which is the kind of a spirit that is like a companion that is also inspiring us toward our unique individual potential, calling, purpose. These are all words that are pretty popular, but it could be the purpose or calling doesn't have to be like my job. It can also be something that's more unique to who you are, the way you live your life, and the things that motivate you. So not surprisingly, when we take the sun and we put it against Neptune, this is why on Monday we'll be talking about this idea of almost like a crisis of vision. I have a friend who talks a lot about the imagination. Is an astrologer friend of mine named Sean Nygaard, and he's going to be doing a talk in our fall speaker series, which, by the way, you can check out. The new lineup is up on the website under the events page at nightlightastrology.com. He's giving a talk on Pluto entering Aquarius, and he talks a lot about imagination. Big Hillman guy as well, and so when I think of the sun opposite Neptune, and again more on this Monday, I think of the crisis not only of vision for our lives, but the crisis of imagination. What kind of life are we imagining, and is our imagination calling us forward? Sometimes we get lost in what we consider to be practical concerns. This is something that Sean was talking about. I think he's going to mention it in his webinar too. So we can get lost in like mundane things, and unless our life is being lived with some imagination, the soul really isn't happy. This is something that James Hillman talked a lot about. And so I was thinking about, how to talk about Sun Neptune today. And I was thinking about what he said, what my friend has been saying about the imagination. And, living a soulless existence means living an existence without imagination. So the sun opposite Neptune can be about not just a crisis of purpose, but a crisis of imagination. But you also have the sun as a symbol that's related to the noetic light, the light of understanding, a light of wisdom, a light of truth, illumination, clarity. It's associated with the sun, with oracles, and with the almost like the transmission that comes from gods or spirits, through religious inspiration or meditation or prayer or divination. Something has come through and illuminated me from within. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, people who are devoted to him, he illuminates them from within so that they have proper understanding about how to progress spiritually, giving them a sense of direction from within. So this sense of a light within, in a sense of what, not just our purpose or, like, what am I going to do with my life? This life, but some larger and even transcendental sense of purpose or direction, being illumined from within with a sense of what makes our life unique, what gives a larger sense of meaning to our actions and choices in life. So a lot of this is going to, a lot of these kinds of themes are going to sort of swirl around the sun. When you think of Neptune, you think of a planet that it reaches into the timeless and the subtle and the imaginative and the eternal, and so there's something here. Sun opposite Neptune. The book that comes to my mind, I always reference the Narnia Chronicles. The solar book of the Narnia Chronicles was called The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and it was part of the mission of the ship was to sail as far east as they could toward the rising sun. And one of the scenes I love the most in the book is the closer they get to the sun, the more that the water tastes sweet. It's not salty anymore. It becomes sweet. And it's like the water becomes like translucent, and they're going closer and closer to the kingdom of the sun. And on the way, they also have to sail through like a tempest of nightmares where their worst fears reside. And they can't get to this place of the sweet water and the translucent water, this beautiful place right on the edge of the eastern horizon. They can't get to it until they pass through a realm of nightmares and fears and illusions. So I think it's interesting that Neptune is often going to bring up the sometimes there's a fine line between, in order to find a true vision and a true calling, sometimes we have to go through a land of delusions and fears and nightmares, and we get things so horribly wrong trying to be ourselves. I think back, for example, when I was in junior high, I remember, it was really popular to wear like ripped jeans and flannel shirts. This was like Nirvana days. And and I remember like I didn't like how they looked and how they felt, and I was wearing them because I wanted to be like cool. I wanted to be like, wearing what all the, it's like trendy or whatever. I just remember how I didn't feel like myself. You know what I mean? So I think there's also something about Sun and Neptune that says like it's like a question, like, are you really being yourself? Are you really being you? Are you being who and what you're called to be? Something like that. And on the way, sometimes we have to sort out the difference between the fantasies that really, fulfill the soul and those that, you know, make our lives soulless, like they somehow cover up the soul. In the Bhakti scriptures, there's a lot of talk about the soul being covered up by our egoic delusion. So the ego is like, well, I got to have a costume, I got to play a role, I got to play a part, because I got to fit in. And in Bhakti, we talk about the ego trying to surrender and serve the soul. And the soul doesn't need any defining. It doesn't need any, the soul doesn't need us to put a costume on it and like dress it up and try to act a part. Its parts like eternally defined because it's just, it's so deep and rich and multidimensional too. It's not just one. The soul isn't just one thing or one character. But at any rate, we can always be tempted to, there's fool's gold, and then there's real gold, the Sun and Neptune. And in Voyage of the Dawn Treader, one of the things that they also have to get through on the way to this beautiful, almost realm of the gods on the eastern horizon in the Dawn Treaders, they also have to get through they have to go to an island where, in different ways, everyone becomes sick with the desire for gold. There's an island that's like has like a pond, for example, that everything, if you touch it, everything turns to gold. And some people almost fall into it trying to get the gold items that are in the pond, which actually are like people that had turned to gold going into it. And then there's there's a young boy who turns into a dragon because he wanders into a cave and it's filled with gold, and he very selfishly like wants it all for himself. He ends up turning into a dragon. So there's a lot of flashy lights, in this world. And then there's the noetic light. And the noetic light is the one that, the soul can pair itself with and say, okay, this feels good. This feels right. I'm not feigning anything. So something here about this transit to me speaks to, over the next few days, especially like looking inward and saying like, am I being real? Am I chasing some kind of fantasy or figment of my imagination in the negative sense? Or am I allowing the imaginal core, the true sort of inner vision and light of my soul to come forth? And so in a lot of the times, like in the Bhakti tradition, we talk actually about the spirit soul. It's a paired word that's used by some of the translators of the sacred scriptures. And the spirit soul also is an interesting concept because it's getting at the idea that there's both something that moves us or compels us toward goals, and it's like very upward moving. Let's climb a mountain. There's a sort of heroic dimension to it, and then there's the soul, which is the like the valley, like it's much more about abiding and just being in what we are and allowing those things that are somehow endogenous to the soul itself to just be. And it's kind of the difference between, you get up, the way that I sometimes think about spirit and soul is some days it's like an action oriented day, and sometimes it's a day of just like abiding and being. And those two qualities, almost like a yin and yang of the that's what, spirit soul of the entity, of conscious entities, that there's an active and passive involved in both. So this is something that a lot of different ancient traditions looked at. The reason I'm bringing it up is because the sun and Neptune is also, at least my own experience of this transit, I've had this transit for a little bit now in my own chart. Neptune's currently trining the sun in my chart. And there's questions about, what actions in the world where there's an undertaking or the ambition can match up with who you are, what you're abiding in, such that, because anytime we take up, an action or a sense of purpose, and underneath there's a feeling like, well, if I don't do this, I'm not complete, or this is, I'll do this and then I'll have something, or then I'll become something, kind of be an affront to the soul who's like, well, I don't need anything. I'm fine in my own messed up, idiosyncratic way, So how do we take soulful action in life, soulful purpose? There's action, but it's not an action that's filled with delusions of grandeur, heroic delusions, things like that. That's also maybe a Sun Neptune question. How do I take meaningful actions that I'm not fooling myself about here? I'm not trying to, I know that, it's a funny thing. Like, how do you undertake something? Well, already knowing that there's nothing to prove, there's nothing that's really needed on behalf of your soul. So soulful action, a lot of the times, again, like Neptune and the sun, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that transit come about in people's lives, and they'll get a really grandiose idea and, it doesn't pan out somehow. It's like not what they thought it would be. Or they might come to the end only to say, I didn't actually need to do that. So there's something they might, through taking on some kind of grand mission, they might come around to the point where they realize, I didn't need to do that for the sake of happiness or to prove anything about myself. At the same time, I've seen lots of Neptune sun transits come about where there's almost like a renewed sense of purpose, a deepening of what makes me really, truly happy and uniquely individual, and following that, even if for other people it's like, well, that's really out there, or that's far-fetched or something like that, So at any rate, fumbling with my language a little bit today because the whole right side of my face is numb from a dentist appointment this morning. Fun times. Fun times. Okay, that's what I've got for today. Just a little prep for Neptune and the sun, which we'll return to on Monday. A little bit of I Ching for us as well on Monday. In the meantime, if you have stories about the sun and Neptune over the weekend, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Use the hashtag grabbed. Tell us your story. Make sure it's succinct. Make sure you mention sun and Neptune so we know which transit you're talking about. You can email us with your story if you prefer. You can write to us at the email address grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. And also, again, registration's open, where classes are starting to fill up, so you can go onto the website, check out the first year course if you're interested. There's an advanced course starting as well if you already have background in Hellenistic astrology and you're looking for more. My Readings and Passages course also starts in December. I'll be advertising that a little bit more starting next month, but some people may be interested in that as well. That's only if you have previously taken a full Hellenistic training course, either mine or someone else's. All right, that's what I've got for today. I hope to see some of you guys in class soon. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we will revisit the sun and Neptune again on Monday. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.